Welcome back to The Sound. I'm Britt Waters with DC rock band Fellowcraft. They've been making the scene in music venues all around the city, including the Black Cat, Rock and Roll Hotel, and the Velvet Lounge. And wherever they play, Fellowcraft is making new fans. So I have to ask this, because I don't know much about rock and roll, but when everyone says people that listen to rock and roll like your fans, they wear like dark clothing, they jump around, they're angry. Is that stereotype true about rock and roll?
They're not angry.
They're usually very loving, happy people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot of energy where all that comes from, but yeah, definitely not anger.
So describe your typical crowd that you perform in front of.
Honestly, like most of what we perform in front of is people our age, people with like regular 9-to-5 jobs. They live in the city. We have a pretty diverse crowd because most of our crowd, I would say, are friends of ours. They all know us personally, some way or some shape or another, and they bring their friends over. And
we all have that one coworker who brings out like a dozen of their people, and we're like, thank you.
And you guys are very interactive with your fans. I saw you guys using Facebook and Instagram. So social media connects you with your fans as well?
It does. It does. I really think that my favorite bands are active on social media, so I strive to be like the bands that I look up to.
What bands do you guys look up to?
Red Hot Chili Peppers, easily, for the past 2 decades or better.
I look up to like the Foo Fighters and the Black Keys, bands like Alice in Chains. That's what I was raised on, stuff I really love. But if I have to pick like bands that I look up to now, it's guys like Mary Jo Matea, Johnny Grave and the Tombstones, or other local acts that are in the city where we follow. We're in their shadow in a lot of ways, but we're one of them, and we're all in it. It's a team thing.
Now, is DC a good place for rock and roll?
I think so.
Very much so. There's a large crowd. The local music scene here is it's thriving. It's really growing, and it's great to be a part of that movement too. There's so many great acts around town. It's amazing to be a part of this movement that's happening in DC. It's amazing.
Both cover bands and original bands, and bands who do a little bit of both.
All right, you guys do a little bit of both?
We do.
Yeah.
And you've been around the world. Describe that.
My father was military. He was in special operations, and my mother was in the Air Force. My grandfather, his father. It's just a family affair. So when I got a job and joined the Air Force, I traveled all around. Was in Korea, I was in Georgia, Ohio, Florida, California. Just bounced all around the
Georgia,
states.
the country or the state? Yes.
We're not supposed to talk about that. No, it's the state of Georgia.
So you're in the Air Force. Were you, in the back of your mind, were you thinking rock and roll band?
I had a rock and roll band when I was in the Air Force.
Really?
Yeah, this all started because my buddy Dan and I, my best friend in the world, wanted to play music. We just loved rock. We were like, dude, let's just rock out. And we used to play in our garage and get hot and pretend we were rock stars. We'd like take our shirts off and drink beer out of big cans. We pretended because that was, we were young. And we turned that into just a cover band. We had a lot of fun. And when I got out of the military and settled here, I was going through a really rough part of my life. Like I was going through a divorce. I was re-entering the dating scene. I didn't have a lot of friends. I just moved into the city. And because I'd lived in Arlington before that.
Yeah.
And I knew the happiest I'd ever been in my entire life was when I had a band. So
I never thought that rock and roll would be the therapy you need to make that transition.
It's very therapeutic.
It is very therapeutic. Yep.
I didn't play rock and roll out until I met these guys a year ago, almost exactly a year ago. So, 3 decades of just playing music and playing out is a totally different feeling.
And the feeling that rock and roll brings is there's just so much energy to it too. Like I think Brandon and I were both in band as kids growing up in elementary, middle school, high
playing,
school.
like tuba.
Yeah,
Not like
I was a band geek myself. I understand.
Yes. Play.
I played drums, and my mom hated it because I was so loud. So did you have the same struggles?
Yes. Actually, my mom forced me to play piano first, and I
Wow.
was so upset with her about it because I wanted to play drums. And after a year of failed piano lessons, she gave in and let me play drums.
My mom just put me outside. My dad was in a band as a guitarist, so he was a little bit more accepting, but usually it's like, play the bump, 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 bump somewhere.
See, I wasn't as fun. I was in the marching band. But for people who are hesitant to listen to rock and roll, what would you say to bring the audience in?
I see, honestly, have a couple of beers. Let yourself go.
Find one of your rock and roll friends and have a beer with them.
Yeah, just get loose. Let yourself go. Rock and roll to me is all about like letting go of some of your inhibitions, like dancing when you want to dance. Like we have a fan, a guy that's come to a couple shows, and he's blind.
Okay.
And his name is James. He's awesome. And when James comes, he can't see a thing. All he can do
feels
is
the
he
music,
feels
yeah.
it. And he jumps around and he loses his mind and it looks awesome. And we're up there on stage just at Rock and Roll Hotel just laying down one of the songs you just heard.
Yeah.
And he's just going crazy. And I think to myself, I want to hear music like James hears music. That's what I desire. Like, so that's what rock's about. It's just let go, let the blasting volume hit you.
So are you
And
ever
that's-
at your day jobs and thinking about the feeling that you give these people in rock and roll? That's a big deal.
Well, these two guys have to deal with me flying around. Like last week, I split my time between Chicago and New York and missed rehearsal. So often we're texting each other like, hey, he writes a riff and he texts it out. And
He was in a rock band before Fellowcraft. It was called An Awesome Job.
That's cool. So what do you guys say to those kids who are still in the garage, still maybe don't even know how to play the guitar, but have these aspirations to be in a rock and roll group like you?
Play live. Get together and play live.
find a couple of dudes.
Yeah.
Find some friends and try it. That's the biggest thing is you just have to go do it. Go play in front of people, even if it's, I have some friends that set up a garage show in their garage and just invited their friends and prepared a set list and played it. And your friends are the easiest crowd and the best crowd to play for because they are so supportive. So that first show, just set it up in your garage and play for some friends. And then let it grow from there.
You can't put a finger on it. Like everybody talks about, you know, getting together and perfecting your songs and making sure everything's tight and like, oh, we're not going to go out until we're ready. Just get out. Just get out there.
Find people who will play with you and people who listen to you.
Yeah.
So you guys are like the birds in the nest that just pushes them.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So you've come a long way from being in the garage to here, Get Up Young Phoenix. What's next for you guys?
We're actually looking to do our next EP. We're going to take about 5 or 6 songs and put them together. We're calling it Bartenders and Bourbon because it's a story of like all of us, like, because we hang out together, like we're friends, and we like to sit around, you know, tell drinking stories and stuff. And we wrote a song about it, and then we wrote a bunch more, and a bunch more, and now we've got a bunch of new songs. And I think our sound's evolving into a more kind of funky, upbeat, a little more up tempo than it was originally, and that happens with bands. Like as each member starts to gel, and we want to take that transition that we've made and put it into the next record.
All right. I mean, you guys came to the sound, turned the stage into a big party. I'd like to get back to the party when we come back. More of the blues and rock and roll sound of DC's own Fellowcraft band. Stick around for more of the sound.